And yep, okay, we are live, everyone. Welcome, those of you that are watching. If you're watching, let me double check and see if we have anybody just immediately watching. But if not, it's okay. This is the Gusalicious so-called podcast, and we have very special guests Lucia Vazquez on and Jade R. So before we get into all of the good stuff, let's have some brief introductions. Lucia, do you want to go first?
Yeah, but just so you know, I see freezing. I don't know if that's me or if that's you. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay, and we won't lose our things. And the other thing I just have to say is that I have a very pregnant dog that could go into labor at any time. So if I'm distracted or if she's coming up to me or I have to say I gotta go now, I'm sure dogs have been having babies on their own for many years, but I'm a little worried about her. It's her first time. So just a disclaimer. Yes, I am Dr. Lucia Vazquez. I live here in Visalia. Um, I was on the Visalia Unified District school board for 9 years. I just lost my reelection, which is, as Jade said earlier, well, she said powerless. I don't believe I'm powerless, but I have a lot more time on my hands, which means a bunch of people have said, "Oh, can you do this?" So one of the reasons why I wanted to come is that I am involved in quite a few things, and I would really like to give you some special invitations, and we'll be hitting that again and again. But right off the bat, because maybe you won't stay long, today at 4 o'clock, we're having a spoken word workshop. I did write a grant, and we uh, leading the whole collective planning committee that put this together. It's called, you want to find us on, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram and on Facebook. It's called The Seen and Unseen. And it's really a Ricardo Favela project to show about Chicano art and to introduce Ricardo Favela to people. He was part of the Royal Chicano Air Force. The Royal Chicano Air Force was a collective of artists. So again, I know this is just a brief introduction, but basically I wanted to come to share with you some of the events that are happening. Like today, uh, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th of January, we'll be having free poetry workshops. If you've ever wanted to try spoken word, then you can come to one of these workshops. And I'm sure, uh, are you Justin? Are you Justin? Or are you Gus Bo today?
Either or, yeah.
I'm sure Gus we'll put the links in the chat so that you can come to any of those. And also, very very important, if you know any artists, this group that I'm talking about, this collective art project, we wanted to extend our support to the Black Lives Matter movement. And when we spoke to them, the biggest problem with them is that they would put up their signs and put up their stuff, and then it would get defaced or it became dangerous. And they had to take their stuff down. So part of our organization is also supporting that, and we got a couple more grants. And so we are now ready to take submissions for pieces of art, designs that would be then part of a larger mobile mural so that we can put it out, keep it safe, put it away. And because of COVID, that you can work on just a 4x4 panel and not have to be around a bunch of people. So we found COVID safe ways to take care of things and to still move on. So submissions for that, again, we'll put that in the link, but they're due Wednesday. And then the other big thing that we're doing is that we're engaging the community in conversations. So on January 28th, we're having our fourth series, our Plática, which is called Las Girls del Valle, Chicano Art Then and Now, um, a queer perspective. So we've done stuff on the RCAF, which is the Royal Chicano Air Force. We had our first one on the Black Lives Matter movement and its links with Mexican independence. And then we had one of the events that talked a lot about the RCF. So this one is a queer perspective. Oh, we also had Barbara Carrasco, who's fabulous, who is a feminist. Her work is very strong with that aspect, and she was fabulous as well. So again, those were just my short commercial as part of my introduction. I'm like a cat with many lives, so I've got lots of topics that I can talk about. I just started a book club with the Tulare County Mexican American League of Women. No, Tulare County League of Mexican American Women. We're just starting. The book is called One Day We Will Be Dead and None of This Will Matter. And so we're doing it for reluctant readers. So you only have to read 10 pages a day. And we'll meet every 2 weeks on a Friday night. So again, lots of information, but I wanted to do the quick commercial and get it out there and hopefully we'll get more people and we can have a little chat about stuff. But those are my commercials that I'll go into more deeply. But thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Jade, do you want to give an introduction about yourself? I know before we went live, you were saying you were involved in all kinds of different things. Start from the beginning, and don't rush through it. And feel free to, but make sure you unmute. You're muted right now, so unmute and then just go through your whole life story, pretty much, and tell us what.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. And as always, I'm honored and very blessed that Lucia is a treasure and a very good friend of mine. And we have actually found each other at an art gallery. My background, if I were to sum it up, has been in advocating families. I was hired by the school district when I was 16 years old to be the migrant, the migrant community worker at age 16. So I was taken out of school because there was no one else that they trusted that would be bilingual and help with the family. So that pretty much set me on a life course of advocacy, initially for Latino families, migrant families in particular, and children. I ended up leaving the school district and headed towards Head Start because Head Start had diverse components to it, like they were into nutrition and they were developing migrant programs that were after hours and on Saturdays. So I advocated and became eventually a coordinator, and then eventually wrote the grant for the Early Head Start grant for Kings County. In that process, I realized that there were very limited services for the migrant families and the Latino families for mental health services. I also realized and created a program for transitional age youth, the teens between ages 14 and 23 that are either in foster care or the teen pregnancy at that time, and this was long ago because I dyed my hair, we were like 6th or 7th in the nation in teen pregnancy. So I created a program where we would go out and bring the teens into a ranch house that had a huge kitchen and pool. Yeah, that was fun. And and brought in teachers to work with them on child development while other teachers worked with the actual infants and toddlers and monitored their development and then worked with the parents afterwards. That threw me into the field of mental health. Since I couldn't find anyone that would come out of the mental health offices at the time, this was way back in the day, to work with our migrant families or with our teens that were way out there in Avenal and Fireball and way out there in those regions, I decided that I would go to school and become licensed so I could clinically supervise and find clinicians. I think Lucia was around that time because that was a really crazy thing to do. While you administrate several programs, I had 3 assistants, thank God they were awesome. And I had the support of the community. And when I say community, I mean friends and colleagues that were saying, you've got to do it. So it was one of the first programs in the country that did a specialization in working with Latino families, became a marriage and family therapist. And then I stepped out and did my internship, had a lot of fun being an intern. During that time, I was also involved in a lot of the advocacy organizations for women, Latino women. I'm also Native American, and recognize that within my tribe and within the local rancherias and tribes, people would laugh at me when they found out I was a mental health intern, and then became an advocate within those fields. Is how do we integrate? How do we bring a holistic approach for families and weave in mental health and child development and bring back community? Because back in the day, when way back, because I can tell before your generation, when we grew up, the neighborhood raised us. The godparents were there, the cousins were there, and what was happening, and it's still happening, is the families were becoming much more isolated. The children were becoming much more isolated, and that was creating more dysfunction. There wasn't anybody to process things with. So I moved from the population. I was working with the Latino and Native American population when I got a call from what's known as One Source, Family One. It's a military program. And they asked me to step into a position that at the time was very rare. It was called a Military Family Life Counselor, to serve military families. And I, for 90 days at a school. And I said no. And they were offering me this ridiculous amount of money and travel and a hotel. And I said no. I said going into the school systems for 90 days would be detrimental to the child, to the school system. You can't make an impact as a mental health clinician or as a supporter or a healer in 90 days. You need consistency. You need consistency in all of those situations. So I helped them write the grant while I was also working on another project. And then finally, they sent me for 10 months, and off I went to a series of military installations here in the United States, and then quickly ended up overseas for 6 years. And I was very, very, it was very lonely because we were not allowed to live on the installations or to develop relationships with the military aside from being clinicians. So I was supported very strongly by the community via Facebook, via chat. And Lucia actually flew out a couple times and stayed with me and supported me during those times. There were wonderful opportunities. And then, of course, then the government changed the contract and I got promoted. And it was time for me to come home. So I recently returned home. And again, I'm a huge advocate. I think I have some things pending that I want to put my energy behind. As Lucia will tell you, when I want to put my energy behind something, it's something, it's like gathering, marshaling troops, much like Lucia does. And I do believe that not just mental health, but education needs to take a more holistic approach in order for our children and families to be successful. Not just in specific pockets of populations. That's what I used to do. Military, Native American, Latinos, it's the digital world, I think, has changed things. I think it's now all our children are at risk, along with what's going on with COVID. All of our children are at risk for isolation, and including individuals, adults. So I'm not sure. I'm Rubik's cubing it. That's what I like to call. I'm Rubik's cubing some ideas, as Lucia will tell you. I'm not powerless, but I don't have my energy behind anything specific just yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much for that whole life story. That was actually really cool that you went into all that. But
Sorry.
that was thank you for that. And
I was telling him I've been around 10 decades. I got shit to talk about. Or 6 decades. Sorry, 6 decades. We got stuff.
well, Lucia, do you want to go into your whole life story now, as far as how you got started, and then go into or start with something else?
Okay. Sure, but I just want to ask. I keep getting freezing. Is that me or is that you all? Go ahead.
There's a little tiny glitch, but it's not that bad.
Okay.
I don't know where it's coming from.
All right.
One thing as to why Lucia and I continue to recircle around each other, it's because of the importance when I talk about being holistic. Music, art, poetry, family history. And that's why Lucia and I keep not just tripping, but keep coming together. That is a huge, huge need and part of looking at family needs, mental health, any of those type of education, those type of needs. So I really wanted to put that in there because Lucia has been a warrior and is a warrior consistently when it comes to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jade. And I think that's a really important part is that we all, know the whole hierarchy of basic needs and shelter and food and all that stuff and, education. But people don't always, even exercise and nutrition is becoming a big thing now, but people don't take the value of arts and art expression and having that kind of stuff in people's lives. They don't always make it a priority. I know being on the school board that Visalia Unified always made sure not to cut the arts. and I just think that to her point is that we both understand the value of that, and we did. We met at an art exhibit, and I was just very drawn to her energy.
Well, what art exhibit was that?
And I said, oh yeah. I think the other thing too is that what go ahead.
What art exhibit like did you meet at?
We
Which
were
one?
at the Richard Arena. Well, this is when Richard and the Arenases had down underneath where the picnic shop is, um, down at the bottom where there's still some art galleries there. They had one there, and there was an art exhibit, and so we kind of met each other there. But I'm real good about keeping touch with people that I know. I still hang out with some of my friends from from community college, my high school people, people that I went to college with 40 years ago. I still reach out to them. Now, it maybe take a couple years, it may be 5 years, but I'm real good about valuing people and trying to touch base with them. And there are some people that I don't see very often, and maybe we don't have a whole lot in common anymore or have that, stuff. But I think that's part of my personality that really appreciates friendship and values people. And so if you want me to talk a little bit about my background,
Yeah.
I can. Did you have another question for me?
Um.
No?
Yeah. Well, like what
Because
high
I can do the
school?
background thing.
Yeah. To
Yeah,
talk
okay.
about your
So I grew up in
whole life story.
Go. I was born in Visalia. Uh, my whole like you told you, tell me your whole life story in 10 minutes or less. I was born. Let me go back then. My parents lived in Texas. Their parents came across the what we call the border. Remember, all this used to be Mexico land. But what we call the border now, they crossed over, like so many families did during the revolution, right? So 1908, 1910, families were fleeing. They were at war. There was a revolution going. There were soldiers coming to take everything you owned and defile your daughters if you weren't careful. So many people fled. There was hunger. There was many stories. We'll go back to that. So my grandparents came over. And then my mom and dad were both born in Texas. And it turns out that they lived across the street from each other. And in those days, again, remember, marriage was a way to sustain your life, right? Women had to be married to have somebody take care of them. A man needed to be married to have somebody take care of them in different ways. So they courted by mail, even though they lived across the street from each other. They both came from very large families, which means all my tias on one side and all my tias on the other side, both my mother's and father's side, knew each other because they were neighbors. They grew up in the same little town and they lived across the street from each other. But you were not allowed to be alone in public. You always were chaperoned, and so their courting was by mail and not quite arranged, but everybody was always looking for a good match. What is going to how are they a good family? Are good. So it had so much more ramifications than it does now. That you found somebody good to marry. If they came from a good family, they were able to support you. They were able, or they were, they knew how to clean and cook, because remember, it was a partnership and people had their roles and stuff. Anyway, so my parents were from Texas, and then my dad came over to LA and called for my mom. And so my mom and her sister and her mother came over, and they got married in LA at La Placita Church. And this was like 1943, August 15th, as a matter of fact. And actually, I think it was 1934. I got those. I'm a little dyslexic, so you'll see me doing that. So my family grew up. My mom and dad started their family in Los Angeles, even though their history was in Texas. And I have 8 brothers and sisters, so we're a big family. But at some point, my father had a brother that started a junkyard in Goshen. And so every weekend he was coming to help with that. Well, we eventually moved to Goshen. So I grew up, and the majority of the family members grew up in Goshen. So very interesting. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and then boy, girl, boy. I'm down here at the bottom. And the boys were all born in LA, and the girls were all born in Visalia. And then we kind of went back and forth because, again, Gerardo was born in LA, and I was born in Visalia. So kind of a mix of everything. But my father was very involved eventually. I'm gonna move forward a couple of decades in the farm worker. Well, it's only one decade, but the farm workers movement. So this was the time of civic action. This was the time of United Farm Workers. And so Dad was working as a welder at the time. Well, first, that's not true. He worked at a ranch because my dad had this whole experience of animals and I mean, he should have been a vet. He had all this knowledge that he had acquired. So he was a ranch hand. And somehow CSO, right, the Community Service Organization, and Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta and Jim Drake came to him and said, hey, there's something happening here, and we would like you to be part of it. And Dolores Huerta says that my dad was the first card-carrying member of the UFW. And so he went to go work for the union in a way that they needed intel. So basically, my dad was a spy. My brother has written some of these stories. Both of my brothers are writing books about their experiences. So they can give you more detail. Because remember, at that time, I was pretty young.
Are you going to write are you going to write a book at any time about any of this?
You know, I have other books. I remember I was really young when this stuff happened. I can give my perspective, but you know, I've already got a book started. It's called Love Letters from to the Men I Never Married. So my twist on what I'll probably be writing between that and my dissertation writing and some very important work, my creative side and some of my poetry. Who knows?
Yeah, poetry. I think I want to hear some poetry.
But I've got some other stuff. So anyway, I grew up in the farm worker movement. I grew up, and I think that's had a huge impact on who I became, because one of the very important things, it was a community of people from all walks of life, and everybody had a job to do, and their jobs were different, and their capabilities were different, and their limitations were different. But what it taught me is that it taught me to respect every person, and that every person has something to offer, regardless of their age, regardless of their language ability, regardless of their education ability. And it really did give me that respect and foundation for people that maybe didn't smell all that great, or were missing their teeth. I mean, or didn't have language. All of us were working in the same direction, and all of us were dedicating our lives to making change. So I think it did a couple of things. One, it made me not afraid to stand up for anything that I felt needed to be done. And two, it gave me a deep respect for people. And I think that really shaped who I am and how I function and how I move forward. So again, we don't want to go through all the 60 years. My family did move to La Paz, which was the headquarters. And then we moved to Arizona to recall the governor because everybody else had the right to strike and boycott, but not farm workers. And that wasn't okay. So we actually moved to Arizona to help recall the governor. And my brothers didn't do well there. So we ended up moving back to Visalia, and I went to Mount Whitney. I was Cinco de Mayo Queen, 1976, pioneer in Mount Whitney. And then I went off to college, to Fresno City College. And then I went to medical school, which a lot of people don't know. And I think I can be very empathetic, because there's a thing called imposter syndrome, where you just don't really believe that you belong there. I mean, I ended up tutoring other people, but I just really don't think that I believed I belonged there. And I was extremely unhappy. And so I ended up leaving there, and then not trying graduate school again for another 10 years when I went to UC Merced and got my master's in young adult Latino literature. And before that, I had gone and done some grant writing. I worked at some school districts. I worked at Farmersville Unified and I managed some grants there in nutrition. And then 10 years later, I went back to school and got my doctorate in education. And my focus was on education resilience and how quality mariachi academies contribute to education resilience. So there's the short of it.
Yeah. Jade, do you have anything to chime in? Any missing pieces that you're wanting to know from Lucia's history? All right, you're muted.
You're still muted.
All right, unmute Jade, and then
there you go.
One of the most powerful things that I've had an opportunity to do is read some of Lucia's poetry. It's really quite visceral when you read it. I don't mean to demean it, Lucia, in any way, but I really was shocked I mean, she's such a public speaker. She does all this other stuff, but when you read her poetry, it really has an impact. So I am eager for her to write, and I love the idea of her book that will have a comical piece to it. The struggles of trying to find a partner in this world is also powerful. But again, in our backgrounds as advocates and as I guess warriors in trying to change the world, it's critical that you have community and you have support. And Lucia is one of those people. She'll go out and find you, which I think is amazing. So I think as we move forward in our process, you cannot minimize your relationships. Choose wisely, because they are the ones that give you the courage and the strength to move forward. My daughter had a full ride scholarship to Dartmouth, and she refused to go. I think Lucia's right. She looked at me and she said, "Mom, look at all these brochures, look at all these people." When they paid for us to go there because we're Native American, she said, "Mom, there's nobody who looks like me. And I cannot do what you do. I am not you. So I'm not going." So I think it's really important that we find some way to build and help others build those connections. And Lucia is a true model when it comes to that. I do want to add that. Thank you.
Thank you for chiming in. That was. I appreciate you chiming in. So, Lucia, anything, should we highlight anything that's coming up? I know that we were kind of rushing through the intro, but so yeah, we have the workshop at 4 p.m. today with spoken word poet Mike Hasso leading that, and then let's see, and yeah, that's every Saturday this month. And then, do you want to talk a little bit more about the submissions for the mural project?
I do, but I want to touch on something that's very important to what Jade said.
Okay.
That whole idea of imposter syndrome, because people want to try stuff and take the risk. Like you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, and people get to college and they don't realize it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's a whole different environment, and their family doesn't really get it. If they're the first one that's gone to college, and you say you can't come home to Sunday dinner, or you can't be there for the wedding, or you can't be there for the what, because you've got an exam and you've got a final and you've got a paper and you're still struggling, try to figure those things out. They don't understand. They don't understand it's what more important than family. And you're doing it for your family, and you're doing it to increase yourself, your skills and your community, but you don't have that support. So I have a friend by the name of Dr. Bonavita Quinto that did her dissertation on leadership and Latina leadership. And what she found out, she surveyed the top administrators in all of the community colleges. And she did this, I think, almost 20 years ago now. I keep telling you we're old. And what she found, the big thing of the commonality for the highest ranking Latina administrator, which is success for a Latina to be in an administrative position at a community college, their biggest core similarity was that they had a support group. They had family, or they had sisters, or they had sister friends, or they had people that they knew in high school. They had close people that were part of their network, that were part of their system, that they had for a really long time. So we can't underestimate the idea of having friends. Now, what happens, and if you look at if you want to go academic on you, the whole idea of social emotional learning, and there's certain things like communication skills and self-awareness and social skills. One of the things there is ability to make friends, which is kind of different than the other stuff, right? But that ability to have close friendships, because what happens now with people and their little tweets, I talk shit about your mom, or I talk shit about your family, and I blow you up online, you're never going to speak to me again. So before, in the old days, you did that, and then in a couple of days or in a week, then you're talking to people again, right? But because now it's unforgivable. You've outed me on social media. You've embarrassed me to the point of whatever. Now I ain't talking to that bitch ever again. So we've lost the ability to make those close friendships with somebody that we could have been really close to. So the dynamic of technology, of the internet, has changed things and has changed that ability to have close friendships. And now even more, we're doing distant learning. These were there for those kids that it's 11 and 12 years old, 13, or even the high school where you're really finding out who you are. If you look at the difference between, and again, from my experience from the school board, when we go to graduations at the junior high level versus when we go to graduations at the high school or even the college, I love the junior high graduations because you still get to see their individuality, how they show up for their graduation. Are they being all emo? Do they have all this glamorous makeup? Are they, I mean, there's some of them are nerdy and some of them, again, their parents might be dressing some of them, but then you see them in high school and they've all got to be cool and do what everybody else is doing. So you see the real difference of what those things are. So at what point are you making your friends? At what point are you discovering who you are? So you know what kind of friends you want to be at. You know, that whole saying of dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres. Tell me who you're hanging out with. And you hang out with all the people that are pre-med, there's a good chance that you're going to go pre-med. If you're hanging out with the guys on the street, there's a good idea that you may be going in that direction. So think very carefully about who you're hanging out with and what you're doing, because apparently those are the people, and if you can get a close-knit group that can even watch your back, even if they don't go to college with you, but you can always depend on them. You can always call them and say, here, listen to my poetry. Here, I'm writing this letter of recommendation. I'm writing this grant. Can you proof it for me? And I'll tell you, I had many people that read my papers in college, that read, you know, my stuff, just because you need that kind of support. And then they could understand a little better what I was doing and what was important to me. So I can't underestimate the point she brought about, oh, we're friends and we've been real friends and it's a good idea. Friends are important, people. Friends are important. But that said, you did ask me to talk about the wonderful things that I'm doing and the projects that I'm doing. A couple of years ago, we got a grant from the California Arts Council, which is a state-funded program, which means your tax dollars pay for it. And it's called a Local Impact Grant. And so what we did is that we wanted to promote intergenerational engagement in the arts. We wanted to talk about art and understand how important art is. And the way that we're doing that is there's a gentleman by the name of Ricardo Favela who passed a few years ago, who was from Dinuba, who came from a farm working family, and he went to COS, and then he went to Sacramento, and him with Jose Montoya and a couple other gentlemen, they created something called the Royal Chicano Air Force. It was a network of artists. And again, this was during the time of the civil rights movement, of the Black Panthers, of the Chicano movement, of the UFW, and again, the United Farm Workers that started the United Farm Workers Union. Of course, they had two other names that before they got to the UFW. So if you look them up, they called something else. But they were created, this group of artists, so that they could be mobile and they could come to the fields and they could come to the movement that was going on and do these print screen stuff and have these posters and get the word out. So it was part of the Chicano movement. So what we did in this grant is that we're honoring this one artist, Ricardo Favela, because he's from Dinuba and he's local. But what his work did is he documented the Chicano movement in the Central Valley. So we're talking about somebody that's local. We're talking about the activities that were local. And you can see he's got a bunch of little figures that were homies. They're like little clay figures of homeboys, but they were based on specific actual people from Dinuba, right? He was part of this collective that made these wonderful posters. And I have a recording of the last little talk we gave about that you can see the posters and you can see it was very integrated in community. Breakfast for Niños. They actually had a breakfast program that was modeled after the Black Panther breakfast stuff. There are things like on the Bakke decision and affirmative action, stuff that happened, still happening in Proposition 2020 that we were dealing with, the affirmative action, the switching stuff, the Bakke decision. So you get a good dose of history and you understand art and you understand how integrated Chicano art was and the Chicano movement was and how they were mixed together. And so that's the basic project that we're doing. Part of that project, we're having conversations with the community. Because of COVID, we're doing it all virtually. We've had a conversation on Black Lives Matter and the links with the Mexican independence. We have had a wonderful feminist, a muralist, Barbara Carrasco, that came and talked about her art. And we've got a couple of those. And what our next one is January 28th, and it's called Las Girls del Valle, Chicana Art, Then and Now, a queer perspective. because we are honoring Esther Hernandez, who we think might actually be able to come in person. She did that iconic, and maybe if I get a chance, I can put it up. I should have put it up already so we can see it. You can see it. Look at the checkout Seen and Unseen is the name of the Facebook page. But there you can see it's the Sun Made Raisin, except she called it Sun Mad. One of them is done Sun Raid, and she's used the Sun Maiden, but she's made it a calavera. An iconic, she was just a very important artist in that time, and she happens to be queer. And in those days you didn't really talk about it because it was dangerous for some people, and so what we're doing then and now is we'll have Esther come and talk about her work. And then we have a local activist, Ome Quetzal Lopez, who is a DJ, a very well-known, a very successful DJ. She's been involved in the murals and the Black Lives Matter project. She's got a collaborative called Lucia Up Front that puts on different events. She's coordinated the Dia de los Muertos in Fresno downtown the last few years. So she's going to come and be with us that night as well. So again, that's January 28th at 7 p.m. And you can find all that information there. Hey, Buddy Jones is joining us. Woohoo! We also, and Buddy, I'm going to invite you again. So Gus is going to put this in the chat. We have another spoken word workshop. You said you were coming and you fell out. You're on mute, Buddy, so I can't hear you. Still on mute.
Come on,
you
baby.
can press down your space bar.
How
Oh, there you
about
go. There you are.
And no, here's what we have to say. We all had kids. And you know, the kids used to say, Mama, I did it by myself. You know, I got on the Zoom call by myself.
Well, I'm so glad you made it. And now you've had practice because, you know, we're having a spoken word shop tonight at 4 o'clock and we're having them the next 3 Saturdays. So right now I'm just doing my commercials as to what we're having. So
Okay.
Today at 4 to 5:30 today, we're having a workshop today, next Saturday, and the Saturday
Okay.
after that. So now that you got Zoom, you should be able to just hit the link and do that tonight. And then the other invitation that I have is that we wanted to support the Black Lives Matter movement and the students that were working on that, even though some of their group has disbanded a little bit. And in Visalia, it was a very organic thing. There were a lot of people that came, that put up signs, that went away. There were people that came and dropped off water. There were people that, you know, that donated. So everybody really made a really big movement. Unfortunately, they were vandalized. There were dangerous situations. That it got violent. Then they got moved to COS, and then they got moved somewhere else. While they were at COS, behind safety area, there was a pile of them. Somebody went and peed on them.
Well, I'm not surprised in Visalia.
Well, this is true, but you know what? There's a big movement of people doing stuff. So I've been describing, Buddy. You came in the middle of my my talk about this whole project that we're doing called Arts Consortium is our fiscal agent, but it talks about Chicano art and heritage and exposure and engagement. So in addition to the January 28th little plática we're going to have, we have the spoken word workshops. And then the other thing is we're going to go ahead with a mural project.
Now,
And
this is
because of
just an
COVID,
open workshop, or is it a Zoom workshop?
it's a Zoom workshop. Yeah, we're not doing
Okay.
anything in person. It's a Zoom workshop, but we get together like this and he gives us assignments and we go and we scribble and we workshop and we come back and we share. It's usually a pretty small group, and so that we can kind of share and learn. It's a very safe space to do it in
Good.
the poetry workshop, and everybody's welcome because we got grant funding paid by the state of California, and we've got some other entities that are working.
Deal, what I've been doing, I just talked to Wadaba, and we're going to have to spend some time Sunday to make sure he's set up right, but he will do the opening for MLK.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Excellent.
For those that don't know who Wadaba is, do you want to just briefly tell his background, and then if you want to update, you give a brief introduction about who you are.
Let me just finish the mural one, and then you can take it away.
Okay.
So the mural work, so what we decided is this group of people that are working with the grant. We're supporting a mobile mural that has to do the theme is called reimagining justice. So if you are an artist, if you know an artist, if we're especially trying to encourage children under 18 to give us a design, they're due Wednesday. So again, I'm sure that Gus will put stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
in the chat. They're due Wednesday,
Where do
and
they?
we're going to allow you to put it on a panel 4x4. So anyway, that's my commercial. Those are my submissions. Buddy, please tell us what you're doing and introduce yourself to everybody.
Okay. My name is Richard Allen Jones. Who knows who Richard Allen Jones is? Richard Allen Jones is the founder of the African Methodist Church. And that's who I was named after. But the problem was I didn't make the cut. I'm not a preacher. So I go by Buddy Jones. And that's good. I'm everybody's buddy. I don't necessarily call myself an activist, but I think it's important that I put my nose in everybody's business and see what I can do. And the main way I've done that is through my artwork, which is drumming. I've been studying drumming now for a number of years. And I think that the drumming gives us a communication that we can't speak or we can't put words to, we can just feel it. And if you feel the drumming, you can feel your heart. And if you listen to your heart, you're going to most likely go in the right direction. Now, in the valley here, which is, as far as I'm concerned, some of my friends, we refer to it as Little Mississippi because, well, we can say that, but you know, isn't that true? Didn't Palin and what's his name, honey? Palin and McCain, they got 75% of the votes when they ran for president in the valley. That should tell you something, you know. However, I live here, you know, and it's up to me to change the sheets. So I live here and do the best that I can. One of the things we have in the valley here is we have a bona fide African drummer from West Guinea, Africa. His name is Wadaba Karoma. And the master in Guinea and Senegal of djembe playing is a guy named Famanu Kanati. And he is the priest, the high priest of drumming. And he is crowned Wadaba a master drum maker and player and teacher. So he's going to open up MLK night for us this Monday. And he's a well-kept secret in the valley. Although we've taught many years here, but he's great drummer. So he's going to bring his heart and bless the meeting. JD, come off Zoom. I mean, off of mute. Jade, take mute off.
Oh, are you reading my facial expressions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty good at facial expression, but you know, we have a fellowship call. Not we, but my friends in the Unitarian Church have a fellowship call on Sunday mornings, and I finally told them after a couple of sessions, I said, I love these sessions, but I can't come to them because the only one you can hear is the person who's talking. They mute everybody else, right? And I said, I'm accustomed to going to a church where people say, yeah, amen, talk to us. And you can feel the feedback, you know? And
Well, I want to thank you because for years in Kings County and Tulare County, I've always called, I grew up near Reading. I've called the Central Valley the second Bible Belt from Reading down to Bakersfield. You got to be careful. I mean, you didn't just walk into Pixley and there was Horse Gold and Three Rivers, you know, and And I think the most amazing thing to me, it's internalized racism. The people of color would look at you and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I was like, and my response to them was, name one Black teacher in Kings County, one. Name one Latino, Mexican, non-white vice principal.
If you have to think about it, it's too late.
And they would look at me like, I said, you know, there was an African man that won $150,000. This is probably 20 years ago, back in the day, because he actually won the case against Kings County Office of Ed. I said, that means that we are not, the diversity only goes to mid-management.
Right.
You only see people of color mid-management. When you got up to the top, when you went to those meetings, I was like, one of us here don't look like the others. I was like, oh my God. So when you said that, I was so grateful, ever so grateful to hear it again. It's been years. It's getting better now. It is.
You know, where were you at? Where were you raised?
Well, I grew up in a place called next to Red Bluff, California.
Okay, you're way up north. Okay.
Whoa, I was the only girl of color. They took me out of school and hired me. That's how bad it was. At 16.
So you had to go south to pick fruit?
I had to go to Sacramento if I wanted to get any Mexican food.
Okay.
And if I wanted to get any makeup, I had to go to San Francisco.
I lived in Riverside, California. And my father had an auto garage. And the first thing we would say to any Black person who came from north of Bakersfield, we'd say, did you make it through Bakersfield? Right?
Don't go to Earl Del Pixie.
and then we would actually tell people, wait where you're at. Don't go through Bakersfield after sundown.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we live. But things are changing.
Well, there's more awareness. And the second thing was the drumming. When I wrote a grant for transitional age youth that were homeless, I put in drumming. I mean, drumming has such a visceral, such a response, not just for young men, but women. You can also bring a group into sync with it.
You got to slow up here.
Yeah. Because
there's this myth that goes on that men do the drumming. Okay, do you know where drumming came from?
Babies.
No.
When
mothers have their babies, the first thing they do is to sing to the baby.
And pat.
That's where the rhythm comes from.
That's it.
Then when the baby gets happy, right, the baby starts clapping hands, right? Then when the mothers get together with the other women in the community, they make up clapping rhythms, clapping music, right? If you're the drummer and you can't keep up, they tell you to get out. So
no, you send them for the drinks.
So the first drumming comes from mama.
It does. Mm-hmm. That's the patty.
I hate to give it up, but that's just true.
It is.
I want to catch this, and then, buddy, I think you need to tell more of your story. But I want to catch this before we go any further. Is that I want to say that the other things about drumming is that because it's got a call and response, there's a participation factor and a buy-in and a belonging, and that we all know the significance in belonging and that idea of communicating with somebody, and even if you don't have the language, that you can do those things. The idea of impulse control, the idea of physical release, the therapeutic event benefits of doing that stuff. And I just want to say, buddy, that the California Arts Council due date is February 2nd. They've got an artist grant. They've limited their 20 different grants they do down to 6. And one of them is for artists. So maybe we should talk offline and see if you want to apply for something as an artist, a legacy grant, or we had talked before about doing stuff. I kind of, jumped off and stayed away from the idea of drumming, but I may be willing to pick that up again. The big thing
One
was
of the things I'm working on, and I haven't got the two together yet. But you know that, well, I called my family. We had a Zoom call for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and there was 20 some of us on the call. And out of the 20 some, it's 27. 18 have what you call buddies rescued wood. What I do is find old wood, and I polish it up till I could see it sold. And when I see it sold, I pass it on to someone else. Kind of like me, like when I'm in the rough, or you wouldn't like me, but they give me a shower, I'm okay, you know? But anyway, I do that. But the thing that I'm really pushing on, and I wanted to somehow have it tie into the artwork, is Yellowstone is the first national park in the United States. Sequoia Park is the second park in the United States.
Yeah.
The person who established the Sequoia Parks was a guy from the Buffalo Soldiers, Charles Young.
Really?
Yeah. And he was the first Black park superintendent in the United States. Okay. That was in 1906. And every year when they have American History Month, they bring up Charles Young. You know why?
This is the only one they got.
They haven't category enough people to tell the whole story. And Buddy Jones Construction Company completed more projects in the Sequoia and Yosemite National Park than any other African-American company in the country, okay? And our work hooks onto Charles Young's work. So I'm working to get that history out, because I've taken some personal tours up to the park for family purposes, but they're very educational purpose. And the highlight of it was when I had one family there who I got them halfway through the tour, they just start crying. And it turns out that they had been going to the parks for years and they loved the parks, but it was the first time they put a face that they were a part of the parks.
Connection.
Because these are not just little sidewalks. These are monuments that we built. And like typical people of color history, it's going to get on the back shelf if we let it.
Sure.
And you think about it, it's right here in the valley.
Thank you. Yes.
It's right here in the valley. And did you know that Allensworth was the first incorporated Black community in the United States?
I did.
Right here in the valley.
Such a nice balance to the other communities. Yes.
Well, it's if you study it closely, there's a continuity that it's been going on all along, but that's not a part of what do you call it? Established valley history, you know. And the bottom line, if it was really researched, is the valley is what it is because of African Americans, because they're the ones who taught the farmers how to rotate their crops.
Really? I did
Yeah.
not know.
You didn't know that?
Nope.
Well,
Nope.
cotton was the product, and if you don't rotate cotton, then the
Dust Bowl. It would be like the Dust Bowl.
well, no, it's not a dust bowl. What happens is the boll weevil comes, and you can't get rid of the boll weevil But if you rotate the crops, it never gets established. So it was African Americans who showed the valley how to rotate crops. But that will never come up in history.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will, because we're gonna get you a grant. You're gonna write your book. You're gonna write the legacy. We're gonna make your artistry is gonna be storytelling. And we got to put some money in there for gas to get up to the sequoias once we can be in person
So
again.
what we should do with the
Where's that
sequoias?
warrior, Justin? I told you about that warrior. There she is.
I know her. I know her. When I see her in public all the time, I go to somebody. Hey, don't mess with her.
That's right. She's a warrior.
Well, here's what I'd like to do if you can. I have a friend who's well, he is a famous artist. I should just say that. His name is Ed Burrell. Bereal. And at this time, they're archiving him in the Smithsonian Fine Arts Museum. Black artist. And he's from Riverside, but they're archiving him, which is an important statement, right?
That's huge. Yes, it is.
So I have this group called Buddy Jones and Friends on Toda, and we get together and talk. And he said something about a couple of months ago that with his artwork, it's been I. He's been able to make pretty powerful statements with his artwork. But it's time that we say we instead of I. And so when you talk about a grant, the way that I think is I tell the story a million times, but there's a little kid at the Boys and Girls Club, young black kid, after I did a presentation. This young black kid came to me and said, Mr. Jones, which is cool. He said, did you really make $1 million? And I said, I did. And, and he looked up with me with those glowing eyes, and you can just see him come out of himself and said, I think I can do that someday, which was cool. So we walked off and my friend said to me, buddy, why did you lie to that kid? I said, what do you mean lie to that kid? He asked if you made $1 million. I said, yeah, it's true. He says, no, you made millions. I said, hey, that kid understood $1 million. That's good enough. That's good enough. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So when I think of grants, the thing that I think of is we need a grant that's not going to restrict us to things like, what's wrong with taking a nice van and going picking up some kids and me taking them to the park, and giving them a one-on-one tour. You never know which kid is going to get a whole lot out of that. Because when you see them, when you see the work, it's like the drumming. You feel something. I'm walking down the street with a friend in Visalia, and I'm trying to explain to him what I'm explaining to you. And I said, he said, I don't quite understand, buddy. I said, you see that hospital? And he said, yeah, it was the Quia Delta. Everybody familiar with Quia Delta?
Oh, yeah.
There's a Quia Delta. So I said, I built that hospital. He says, now you're crazy. As if I couldn't. You know what I mean? He couldn't wrap around that a black man could build a hospital like that. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And when I take these people to the park and they see stuff, they say, did you do that? Did you really do that? I say, yeah. And the part that blows their minds when I say, yeah, they said, where'd you learn how to do rocks? I said, I don't know how to do rocks. They said, what do you mean? How could you do it if you don't? I said, I hire people who can do rocks.
There you go. I like how you think.
Well, you know what's making me think too. I know you're saying it's a we, not an I, but I was talking specifically about a legacy grant and an artist grant that would tell more your story and allow you to do the things you need to do. But you gave me a really good idea. You made me think about something here. Is when you say unrestricted, the hardest thing to do, especially with youth. Everybody's afraid of doing anything with youth. Right now, the school districts with distance learning will not even allow any volunteers because there's been so much sex trafficking and people grooming kids and doing all that stuff. Before, you could at least do a background check and do the life scan, and they're not even doing that anymore. But Biddy, you said something really important. If we wrote it so that we're taking families, then we're doing the intergenerational
Exactly.
thing, and the families have responsibility for their own kids, and that's not an issue. And what are we do? What a gift to be able to take a whole family, because that's just it. We write it up that we're doing families, and that solves that
might
problem.
even take it farther for us, because when you try to get around all the obstacles of the COVID, you still got big obstacles, right? But,
Yeah.
but no, that can't stop us. Which is, why can't we get a Zoom program where we're educating kids all over, where they can see that this has happened.
Well,
or that this is possible.
I think all that's great.
Forever. If you present it as a goal,
COVID's not going to last forever, and right now there's more COVID money. We can do COVID and education and a lot of things, but the idea of being in nature and seeing that stuff, and the power of the one-on-one, and these kids did that. But what's the whole idea with COVID? If I got a family right now that they had 4 or 6 people that were positive, they're all still hanging out together. Ooh. So hopefully they have a car. They have a car, people have a car that they can use. We pay for their gas. We put you in a separate car. And we drive up. So I would love for them to feel.
I think it's worth a discussion.
To be able to, so we could still do the one-on-ones, even though we're in different cars, and then we talk about it, and while we're there, and you talk, and I mean, it's greater to be on that road trip together. But there are COVID ways, anti-COVID ways we can work it.
But I think one thing that we need to keep in mind, and this was very shocking, and this is when I did the MHSA program when I started in Visalia downtown for the transitional age youth and their families. Some of those families had never been up to the Sequoias or gone to Pismo. We might take that for granted, but because they are in the midst of surviving, that's not even something that crossed their minds.
Think about this.
For
1 second.
So we took them up, and they were like, just to go put their feet in the creek and in the boulders. I mean, it changed their entire perspective.
Think about this. The kid who's never been out, right, up to the forest. Most kids, one way or the other, have heard of John Muir, right? But they have no concept of who John Muir was.
No.
I am a Black John Muir. Okay? I mean, I
got to stay away from you. You are a bad influence. I tell you right now.
Huh? Because it's hard for anybody to wrap their minds around $1 million project. Okay? And
they don't have anything to relate to.
Huh?
They don't have anything to relate to. The parks, their backyards. Some of them have backyards. Some of them are homeless. They have no way to relate to what's out there.
Well, once you see the sequoia trees,
oh please,
they're like the drums.
Please,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The first time I went to the Grand Canyon, I thought that was the ultimate. But you know what? Every time I go back, it's like the first time.
It's humbling.
It's just each time, yeah. And so even so with the sequoias, each time you go back. And one thing kids can brag about is not only being from the valley, but being around the world's oldest trees. That's a spiritual experience.
I think Lucia has a point, though. I think that, and it's going to be hard, but I was talking a lot about community and families. And families look very different. I mean, like my godson is 15 and you never know. So families, as long as we keep the definition very loose, are bringing them together so that it provides the opportunity you're talking about. So you're not looking, like Lucia said, at logistics. I think that's a start. This is something that's going to have to be hashed out.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I see, it's like the never ending story. I see the glitter in this. I see the power in it. Again, those of us that have made it with the support of others, friends, family, but we've also made it with spiritual support, whether it's the ocean, whether it's the boulders, whether it's the trees. We also, if you really think about it, guys, we're grounded, literally grounded by something in nature. And that's something that's hard to teach. That's what you're saying, right? You don't teach it.
You can feel it though.
You can feel it. It's something that has to be visceral. You have to feel it.
Yeah.
So
People
I think
can
we're
tell you
talking.
I have a migraine. Until you have a migraine, you're like, oh, they got a headache. You get your first migraine, you're like, oh my God, this is not it.
Yeah.
Same thing with going to the sequoias. It's got to be visceral. And you're right. How do you create? It's not something we can do today, this moment. Poor Justin, who's going with what's going on here and being hijacked. But this is something that even with COVID, even if you do it with Zoom, Lucia, even if you start with his taping a sunrise and you know, and then begin to advertise what it is that we're looking at, even if it becomes a car parade thing, I don't know that you can though, or groups that, you know, there's a chain in between them for 6 feet, whatever, with masks. But I think you're right. You start out with the videos of the power of the sunrise, the sunsets, the, you know, the trees with the nature sounds and some music. You got to pull them in, and then you begin to insert ways that you can actually get them up there.
Well, I think another crazy idea is.
Am I crazy?
I'll be 81 this year. Okay. So I don't want to do this much more.
I'm tired.
That's what I told Justin when we started. I was like, I'm not, what are we talking about here?
But I could imagine
Oh man.
where you get a grant
to
train a group of young people here in the Valley to do the tours themselves.
Yeah.
And they can meet me someplace on the tour. But the thing they can do is selling wolf tickets about how proud they are of the world's breadbasket and some of the world's oldest trees right here in the Valley. And then they can talk to kids from all over the country, not just the Valley, but through Zoom, we're talking to kids all over and saying, I'd like to invite you down once the COVID is over and take you on a tour, blah, blah, blah. It has potential.
Well, you know, we can do that now. We can do that now with Zoom, and we can have these things, conversations, and we can do that. But let me just throw a couple things out there. You have the alternative high school, the continuation high school in Visalia called Sequoia, that are hooked up, that they have their own, I don't call it a ranger program, but they have a forestry class. They were recognized 2 years ago. They got the regional award for their programming. I mean, the kids, while they're in that forestry class, they take a college class from Reedley on hiking, forwarding, what management. They break down what do you call those knock down the trees, chainsaws. I mean, they get all these skills, right? So there are ways of doing things and virtually offering stuff and doing that. But I need to make a point here that goes back to the original racist place that we live in, is that part of the grant and part of the exposure is that people do not realize that kids have never been to the ocean and never been to the mountains. I mean, when we ask them what is it that you want, or what kind of prize, or should we get pizza, or what can I get you, or what, you know what they want? The ones that really have been deprived in a Starbucks. I mean, Starbucks is such a thing. They've never been to Starbucks, because who's going to pay $5 for a cup of coffee when you're having trouble making meals and
Yeah,
making rent?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm just saying, people don't understand the gap and the difference. You know, like I hear people, well, why don't they just don't go? Why don't they go to their room and do this? They live 2 families to a 2-bedroom apartment. And you want to know why they don't go to their, I mean, people do not have a clear understanding of some of the situations people are in. That said, I want to go back to the idea of community versus family. If you're already living with somebody in a group that you're already sharing germs, there's no reason why you couldn't get in the car together. If you have a car that would make it, provide their gas and provide stops, or provide a tour guide, or provide somebody in a separate car. And I'm thinking we don't have to wait for COVID to be over, even though, you know, the way the grants work, it'll be 6 months to a year before we actually get the money. But there are things that we can do. And I love Zoom. I love the exposure, but remember who we're talking about: people that have never been to the coast, had never been to the, I mean, a big deal for them to take the bus to Fresno. You know, I mean, really, really expose people. And some of that jumpstart money, that's what that's for, and the legacy money and all that. And I wish I had all the time in the world to develop things and to put things out and to find the right people, because there are people that are doing programming that really need the expertise that we're talking about here to be able to do that and to have some ideas.
You
But
just got to give them the momentum. You got to give them that, because
yeah,
this
for
young
some of them, yeah.
generation.
And then to know that you're going to meet them there at some point, so they can have you can do your own, you know, we get to do that, to have you
Right,
there.
right.
Yeah.
What are you thinking there, lady? Your head's really
Oh,
down.
I was, oh, yeah. I forgot I'm on camera. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of, well, you're right. I mean, I'm embarrassed to tell you that my children have just recently decided they need to become a part of the community, because
How
our
old are
generation did it all.
How old are your kids?
They're in their 30s. And
Young
so,
kids.
because we did it all, we were the ones that were active. We were the ones that, you know, so, you know, Obama was elected and I left the country and went off to work with the military, came back and went, what'd you guys do while I was gone? I mean, what
Yeah.
happened? And they're kicking back with their Starbucks, you know, because they've made it thanks to all of us. And they're looking at me like, going, I don't know what happened. It's like, oh, no.
Right.
They didn't do this. What happened?
My youngest son, my wife's youngest son, has a food distribution business. He sells foods to schools, and it's a pretty successful business. And she is the executive secretary, semi-controller. So she works with her son all the time. And one day he looked at her and he said, "Mom, you seem to know an awful lot." you know what I mean? But it takes some years to come around to that, you know. This is something that dad knows about or mom knows about, but it takes a little while for that to happen. And I'm glad to see it's happening with your kids.
Well, I think, to me, I think Lucia has another point, which is they're out there. You were right. I mean, finding those that are passionate, that are not in their 30s, they're out there. We were out there. We just tapping and finding them. And I think some of the poetry stuff that you're doing, Lucia, you might find them there. But, you know, I did not have role models. I did it because I looked around and went, I don't like this and it's going to change. I'm tired of being by myself. So if I did that, then I know that there are 16, 17, 18, 20-year-olds out there that want to make a difference. And with the internet, we have a powerful commodity. That's not just going to be the people here. If we could tap in, find some way, and I think that would be where Justin's at.
We have a tendency to say that. We have a tendency to say that, but you know, the older I get, the more I fall in love with my parents. Because I can remember the times when I say, Mom, when are we going to have dinner? And she'd say, just in a few hours. Well, there was nothing in the refrigerator. How was she going to have dinner? She came up with it. We had dinner.
Right.
You wonder how they did it. And we
Yeah.
still do that, you know.
Yeah.
The big thing I see with these new young generations is when things get tough, they have another Starbucks rather than saying, don't drink Starbucks today, go home and make a little coffee. You know? And we didn't do it by ourselves. Our parents taught us some things.
Sometimes.
You know? And I think that sometimes we have to go backwards before we go forward.
You know, you guys are giving me more thoughts and more ideas. I did a grant workshop this morning, and one of the things that one of the reasons why I do that, because I've been one of the first grant workshops I did at the City of Tulare Library, because they have these resources here. They have a grant foundation database that you can get into and find all these grants and find all these wonderful things. And so the first time I went to the head librarian, I said, can I come and can I do this? And, you know, and so she listened to the whole thing. And afterwards she said, Lucia, she said, I paid a couple grand to go to San Francisco and take a 3-day course. You covered 90% of what I learned there.
Is that
And I don't
right?
think I was charged. I would assume what I was
Is that
charging at
right?
that time. And the reason why I do this, and I offer them, and now I charge $10, and I don't charge, it's a suggested donation so that I know that they're putting part. I had 30 people that signed up. I had to move it to 2 different days. I'm doing one tomorrow as well. I had 6 people in there today, right? So those 6 are the ones that are going to want to do stuff. But this is my point. Tulare County has for years has a huge population of marginalized communities. We have great need. We have homeless. We have hunger. We have poverty. We have lack of education. We have lack of opportunities. And the funders are now looking at the Central Valley, but we don't have the people here with skills to be able to write the big grants, to put stuff together. So I am going to meet with somebody again Monday so we can, what can we do to be able to write grants, to be able to, so what if we came up with this great solution of taking people to the mountains, to feel, to see, to meet Buddy, to do all that. And we packaged it. So people that did have a classroom, that did have a family, that did have a community that and a car that could take them, we could help them go do that. You know, because I can't do it all, because I can't write all the grants, because I can't take all the trips. And like you said, Buddy, I'm not going to be doing this forever. You know, maybe that's the way that we start packaging things to say, you got a group of kids. I mean, let me give you an example. Wild Places. And those of you who have not heard of Wild Places, look them up. Wild Places, again, before COVID, they would do what they call a Rio Limpio. They had some people that were trained. They'd bring students on. They would again train the students, and they would cover 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles of the riverbed and clean up as they go. And when they ran into people, they would say, please pick up your trash, leave the place better than when you left it. They give them a little education. At the end of the day, they feed them, they jump in the water. Everybody's had a great day. But the Forest Service loved them because they were cleaning the
Right,
they were making it right. So I mean, packaging something like that, or packaging the idea that, but you have to know that it's there to be able to take your kids, whether it's your Boy Scout troop or whether it's your classroom or whether it's your church group. I mean, how do we do those things so that they know that they're available?
It may not be as difficult as we're thinking, because I have a 14-year-old granddaughter, lives in Virginia, and she loves to talk about things. So we got into some political debate one day. And she said to me, Grandpa, I'm gonna research this and then we'll get back together. You know what she did? About a week later, she came back. She had a 2-page, single-spaced written answer and she had about 15 references of where she got her information from. I was stripped naked. How am I going to argue with that? Huh? So I explained to her that what she did was good, and she outdid me. I said, but that is just data. That's just information. You have to learn how to implement your information, right? So she calls me later. She's a teenager, 14.
Yeah.
She says, Grandpa, this is my best friend. This worm is my best friend. I'm mad at everybody else, so this worm is good to me. So I wrote her back and I said, honey, that's not a worm. That's a caterpillar. Okay? She said, what? I said, yeah, it's a caterpillar. Go research it. So she went to research it. And I said, what did you do? She said, oh, I said, what are you going to feed that caterpillar? She says, oh, I forgot about that. So I said, well, go find out what they feed caterpillars. And a day or so later, she called back and said, what did you do? She says, I put the caterpillar back outside where he belongs, you know. But what I learned is that they can collect data. They're very good at it, you know. But what they're not good at is to exercising other options. Once they get stuck, they're stuck.
But that's the beauty of being able to learn that every day you can learn something new. I mean, I keep offering
That's our
some
job.
of that older generation to, hey, you want to learn about Zoom? Let's have a Zoom lesson. Let me know when you're available and we'll sit there and we'll Zoom together. You're never too old
Well, we could get some young kids to
to
say,
learn something.
we
You're
want
never
this
too young
Zoom
to
call. We
teach
want you to
something.
set it up, set this Zoom call up for us.
Yeah. And we'd be right.
And see how far we,
not good
and
at
all
it.
I'm saying is that I think if we could include them, you know, as not being there just to take, but to be a full participant.
Right.
Uh,
So that they know that
How
their
do you
their
get
input is
grants?
valuable. Yeah. Yeah. And I think how to get grants, but in any conversation, like you just mentioned
Yeah.
a couple of them, letting people know that their opinion is valid, that their perspective is valid. Do you know one of the first book clubs that I did, there was a woman that was almost 40, if not around there. And it was, she says, you know, I really enjoyed this book club, but it's the first time anybody ever asked me for my opinion. How sad is that? Right? How sad is that? So if we can install in people that they have something to offer, whether it's hooking up our computer or having an opinion about something. Buddy, we lost you. Hey, Gus, at this time, can we ask people and put the link up again in case they want to actually come in? Or are you guys getting ready to? I just realized we've been at this now for an hour and a half. Can you believe that?
Oh my God, did we lose Justin?
I think we lost him. He made me the host. So maybe that's part of the problem, is that he busted off, and that's why. But we are live streaming, and apparently we have people that are paying attention to us.
Oh God, no.
So I did see that there's a couple of people, Ian Edward Morris, that made a comment.
Who was the comment?
And Myra Bassett is watching, so I'm just doing some shout outs. Yeah, Miles. I'm trying to see who else. So feel free. You guys have the contact. If you guys want to come in, I'm host now. I can let you in. We would love to have a conversation with you. I mean, I could talk for a couple more hours. I mean, it is an hour and a half. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do my commercials again in case you missed them. Today at 4 o'clock, we're having a spoken word workshop. There's no charge. We have gotten a grant to extend the stuff that we're doing with an art project. Oh, look at Justin is back. Gus is back. So Justin, I went ahead and I decided to do my commercials, and I invited anybody that's watching on Facebook if they want to come in. So maybe people will come in. But one of the reasons why I came on is to tell you about one of the art projects that I'm doing. So there's 3 things I'd like to invite you to. spoken word workshops. If you've ever wanted to write poetry, but you really didn't know where to start, or you've seen some of that spoken word stuff, then today at 4 o'clock, 4 to 5:30, we're going to be doing a spoken word workshop. Look for Seen and Unseen, or look at Gus Bo's stuff. He can set you up. We'll have it today, the 16th. We'll have it the 23rd, and we'll have it the 30th. Also, January 28th, we're going to have a plática. It's a little discussion. We'll be having Esther Hernandez, who is has an iconic a picture from the Chicano movement. We're going to be having DJ Omer. We're going to talk about Chicano art then and now, and it's going to be a queer perspective. And that is January 28th at 7 p.m. Again, go to the Seen and Unseen Facebook page so that you can find that. And then the third thing was, the mural project. As part of the Seen and Unseen movement of art, and to support the Black Lives Matter movement, who got their signs taken down and had a lot of, their signs were defiled. There was some violence. There was some attacks on the people. So the art project that I'm working wanted to support that, and we got more funding. And so we're buying all the materials. We've organized a group of people. And so if you are an artist, or you know an artist that would like to contribute to this mural, we're doing a mural, and we're doing it COVID safe in pieces. So this Wednesday is the last day to submit your designs. We are encouraging students under 18, but anybody is eligible to submit. And also, we'd love family submissions, so that if you get chosen and our artist committee, puts these things together, these designs, then you will be asked to recreate it on a 4x4 panel, so that you can do it. We have a place to work. We're going to schedule people so that we can still be COVID safe. So those are my things. The January 28th event, spoken word today and the next 2 Saturdays. And then if you are an artist and you have some talent and you want to contribute to the Black Lives Matter, actually it's called Reimagining Justice. We're trying to have a positive spin. What would you reimagine justice to look like? And that's the theme that will be unifying the mural project. And one more plug, the Tulare County League of Mexican American Women will be starting their book club, and we are going to be doing One Day We Will All Be Dead and None of This Will Matter is our first book choice. And because we want to appeal to the reluctant reader, you only have to read 10 pages a day. And then we're going to meet on a Friday night every 2 weeks. So anybody is welcome, and that you can probably find on my Facebook feed as well. So Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Are you busy?
Am I busy?
I would like to
I am so busy. Do you know that I'm the president of the Visalia Democratic Club now? And I am the chair of the Cultural Heritage Foundation, besides doing the book club. And I am employed for the next month or maybe longer. And my baby's my puppy, my dog is ready to have puppies. So I am busy, yes. And I have a grant writing workshop tomorrow as well as today. And now that you've given me so many ideas, I'm probably going to try to write some stuff up before February 2nd.
There's our rainmaker. She's gonna make rain. I'd like to hear about the Mlk events that were mentioned.
There you go. Okay, I'm gonna be there for a while.
All right. Yeah. So, Black Lives Matter and my collective, which includes Jeff Blackman, who is with us right now, we decided to put on a Martin Luther King Jr. Day event, and just extend the invitation to anyone that wants to give a speech and everything. And so we've asked Buddy to perform on the drums and give a speech if he feels like it. And also that's we have quite a few speakers and performers, but that's going to be Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 6 p.m. on Zoom. And but real quick, we have some shout outs. It looks like Myra Becerra from the Ivanhoe Community Council was saying loving the ideas about some of the getting the youth to the Sequoias and whatnot, or just families in general, and so we have some people really digging the some of the local history of that Buddy was sharing. And then Also, Teresa Trujillo Montillon said, "Hello, buddy," and so Buddy has a fan.
Hi, Therese.
And then yeah, we have a ton of people. We're watching, and they're still watching, and they're enjoying it. Got a lot of people sharing the video, asking for the mural project flyer, so we'll get them that, and just we got a lot of good feedback from this podcast. So yeah, to learn more about the Martin Luther King Jr. Day event, you can go to the Facebook of the Black Lives Matter Hanford and find the event page, and you can also find it on my page. You can find the flyer, and yeah. But buddy, do you want to talk about what you plan to do with Wadaba and tell a little bit about who Wadaba is?
I think I talked about Waterbull earlier. I don't know if do you need more?
Um. Well, how did you meet him, and where's he from, and stuff?
Okay. Waterbull's from West Guinea, Africa. And he's been in the United States now for 20 years. If you're familiar with what they call djembe drummers, djembe is one of the sacred drums used in many countries in Africa. And Wadaba is considered a djembe master. And I do want to make a clarification here. There are a lot of drummers, djembe drummers, who probably play louder and faster than Wadaba. But Wadaba's music is what you call traditional African music. And he's pretty evangelical about it, in that he thinks it's important to preserve the old ways. So when you hear his drumming, you are hearing traditional African music. And the purpose of having him open up this MLK ceremony is, in Africa, they have what they call the djembe fola. And the djembe fola is the drummer who announces all the activities in the village. Whenever there's an activity, they drum it out. And Wadaba is, we're going to have to help him. That's a djembe. That's a djembe. Now, that's what I call a tourist djembe. It's a nice djembe, but it's turn your mute off, Jeff. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice looking djembe. Okay. But Wadaba makes traditional djembes.
Yeah.
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 But don't diminish the value of that one.
I've had this for 25 years.
You have?
Yeah. Yeah, I started when I first started playing instruments, this is my first instrument really. When I was like 20.
You're a brother in a white man's skin, you know?
Yeah, I was really into the Grateful Dead music and also medieval sword fighting. And when we do our medieval sword fighting, they would have drum circles and stuff, and everybody would dance around and stuff, and we'd have belly dancers.
Do you know who has more drums, African drums, than anybody in the country?
Mickey Hart, probably.
Mickey Hart.
Yeah, I've read his
Hart.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in charge of the African drumming in the Smithsonian. So
Right. Yeah.
you're on the right track, man. You just need
Definitely.
you just need a little more tan, that's all.
I know.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of African drumming. Baba Tunde, I'm a little bit familiar with his stuff.
Yes. Good.
But
well, the idea is to have Wadaba just open up the ceremony for us.
Right.
So, did you want to talk about what you mentioned to me on the phone the other day about your experience over in Asilomar?
If the timing is
okay, yeah, Lucia has her hand up.
Lucy, yeah.
Lucia, you're on mute.
Mute.
Yeah, if I can interrupt for just a minute, I've got to jump off at 3 o'clock. And somebody had asked me a question about ethnic studies, so I would just like to
Yeah,
at least address that.
address
For
it. Yeah.
any of you that have been watching the news, Visalia Unified a few months ago approved an ethnic studies class. They were going to do it in one school. They were going to do a pilot, and it was approved by the state. And then so apparently, Mr. Jensen approached the school district, the board last week, and was talking about, I don't know, one of the other school board members had also said that the book they were using was a watered down Marxism. And, and so I've been getting a bunch of calls. It's like, what can we do? What can we do? So I just want to give you just a brief thing, is that we had somebody in the school district that researched and did the work and wrote a curriculum. There are people all over the country and all over the state that have been working on
Wow.
ethnic studies curriculums. We actually approved a optional elective version of ethnic studies. And I had a PhD in ethnic studies call me and say, what are you doing? This is a watered down version. The state superintendent of schools has approved this, and it is a watered down version because, and I'm going to say this, and I already got people that hate my guts anyway, because we live in a very conservative state. In order to get this watered down version passed, they actually had to put a chapter in about the contributions of white people. I am not lying. So for people of ethnic studies, they find that actually offensive because everything mainstream has to do with the white man's way of doing things. So just to say that even this piece of ethnic studies that was a big win for many people, to be able to talk about race, to
In
be
this
able to
area,
talk
that's
about
cool.
history, right, is good. And now they're still having a problem with the book that's been approved by the state, with the book that's been used. And just so that you have an idea. So people are asking, when is it coming? As far as I know, from my experience, so far, it has been approved by the Visalia Unified School District to have an optional ethnic studies course. At this point, we are still using that book, even though we're getting some feedback. And the question that was posed to me was, did the board discuss
At
it?
what grade level?
It will be a high school optional course to take. But
Okay.
My whole point is, if you are really interested about this and you want to get into the conversation, it has been approved. If you want to show your support, then write to the board. I want to give you one example. We had, when La Jolla opened, was brand new, and this was again over 20 years ago, we had a principal that had just passed, rest her soul, teacher principal Anna, and she wanted to make it a little more diverse. And she asked a friend of mine that had a daughter that was going to junior high to come to the school so she could mix it up and have a little bit of people from the north side, from the ethnicity, to come there. They actually asked this poor 7th grader for her green card, right? This is somebody that she was born here, her parents were born here, more than likely her grandparents were born here, but the students had no clue. All they had was, oh, they're all illegals and every brown person is illegal. This is why ethnic studies is so important, because even the white people here, they don't know what the brown people are like or what the black people are like. They have a fear of us and they don't get it. So ethnic studies is just as important for our white brothers and sisters, for any people of color, because we need to learn about each other and we need to learn about each other's history. So again, I apologize. I have to go in a few minutes. I know that you guys are going to have lots of things to talk about, but I've been on Zoom all day and I want to come back for the 4 o'clock spoken word. I hope to see you all at the 4 o'clock spoken word, but I do need to get off unless anybody has a question or a comment before I go. Did you ask me a question, buddy?
I need to be going. It was an unexpected invitation. I'm so glad I got the opportunity. Really, really excited about some of the things I heard, and hopefully I will see you on Monday. Thanks again.
You're
Take
welcome.
care, guys. Bye.
Buddy,
Bye-bye.
did you have a question for me?
No, I was going to say there was a website I wanted you to check out. It's www.tota.world.
World or world?
Yes, world.
WORLD.
Yes,
World. Okay.
and / Buddy Jones and Friends.
No, you cut out. Toda.world/buddy.
Buddy Jones and friends.
Okay. Okay. And if you could, when you get a chance, if you put that in the chat, Gus will pick it up for me. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Good enough.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you. Hopefully I see you at 4:00. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lucia.
Thank you, Justin. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye. All right, buddy. Do you want to briefly, go into, your experience, that you told me at a Silmar? I know it's not. You can't really go into it briefly, but
Yeah. Well, it can be brief in the sense that there are people that do stand out as people who are bigger than life in our culture. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. So these figures who are bigger than life for most of us. And I was fortunate enough to have lunch with Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King, and Joan Baez at a conference. And it was a great, great conversation. I learned a lot in that one particular encounter, but I was too young and dumb to absorb the whole impact. But certain things did stick with me, and I share that now and then. Anybody there?
yeah. Sorry. No. What I was gonna say was, so did you say on the phone the other day that you got a chance to you were you played at an event, a conference?
Well, when I was at the conference, we put on I put on a concert with Joan Baez. It was just Joan Baez and myself, and we hadn't really met before, but spontaneous we put on this drum, and well, at the time I played bongos and congos, so we put on this concert, kind of spontaneous concert, and as a result of it, that's how we got invited to lunch by Martin Luther King, by putting on this performance. I didn't know who Joan Baez was. She didn't either at the time.
Oh, okay. Wow. Interesting. And anything stick out about that meal together?
Yeah, the thing that stuck out the most is when we asked him, did he believe in interracial marriages? Anybody have any idea what he said?
Jeff, anything? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
He said he didn't believe in him.
Well, yeah, that's understood.
He said, I don't believe in interracial marriages. I think people who love each other get married.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's even better answer.
How about that?
Yeah.
That always stuck with me. And I think it's the same with friendships. It's not based on race. It's just that you like each other.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
So that was one topic. The other possible topic is we can celebrate Martin Luther King Day, but do you know where the first civil rights legislation of separate but equal came from? Either one of you have any?
I don't.
That's first,
you, Jeff.
First Ferguson.
Well, you know,
It's a Plessy Ferguson.
You know what Brown versus the Board of Education?
Oh yeah, yes.
Familiar with Brown versus the Board of Education? Okay.
Right.
What that came out of was they call a de facto law. There was already an existing law in place. The Supreme Court didn't have to make a decision. They just said we have to enforce that existing law. That existing law came out of Visalia, California.
Really?
Are you
Really?
familiar with that?
No.
I'm not surprised, but you know.
Well, there's a possibility if we didn't have that law that we may not have got past Brown versus the Board of Education. But that law was in existence out of Visalia. It never was enforced, but it was on the books. Okay. And at some point, I'd like to see the point where we celebrate that in Visalia or in Tulare. That we were the first ones to pass civil rights legislation on separate but equal.
Wow.
That's
Right.
another possibility.
That would be cool. Yeah, to kind of to bring some more awareness about that. I'll have to brainstorm some ideas, but yeah, that would be pretty cool. Oh no! Of course, what comes to mind is some kind of documentary or something, or book, some kind of documentation of it.
Here's what I think I probably should do is we don't know who's going to be on the Zoom call, how many people, right?
No, it's still unknown. We know we have like about 15 speakers Monday at 6 p.m. and 15 intermixed with poets and music and speakers.
Well, I think that I'd like to just introduce the importance of drumming
Mm-hmm.
and my relationship to the civil rights movement.
Yeah, that'd
If
be
I could
fantastic.
just, huh?
I said that'd be
How's that?
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
'Cause
you
I
know,
mean, I came up with it. I mean, if you
and,
think about it, I've met Martin Luther King, I met Malcolm X, Jesse Jackson. I met a lot of those folks. So I'll just talk about the country boy who met the people who were important in the civil rights movement. I was actually bodyguard for Cesar Chavez several times.
Wow.
I'm glad to have met you. You know,
Thank
so I've
you.
met who's met Malcolm.
You
You
better
know.
ask Malcolm for permission to do that.
No, well, in the Grateful Dead, there's a song lyric that says, "Shake the hand that shook the hand of P.T. Barnum and Charlie Chan." And so
Right.
you're at the concert and you're dancing around, you're shaking everybody's hand. You probably ended up shaking the hand who shook the hand of P.T. Barnum, or
That's right.
and
That's right.
I'm a person who's met Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and Cesar Chavez,
Well,
right?
to me, it was a little more than just meeting him
Yeah,
because he actually invited us. To me, that was, says, I don't
right.
know what you're doing on stage, but it's pretty good. Why don't you come eat with me? I think
There you
the
go.
ultimate in awards is when somebody invites you to eat with them.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And when me and Justin were spitballing, on him being a host doing podcasts and stuff, I was saying what we got to do is the local history of the valley, local music and stuff, and local history and stories, spoken word, people telling their stories, and it's being documented here on YouTube and
What we
Twitch
might
and
want to do is get Monday behind us, okay? And the the section on Toda will dovetail into what you guys are doing. But if we're in agreement tomorrow, we'll get What About to do a thing, and two, I'll do the importance of that drumming, and three, why we have to take time to stop and think about civil rights movement. I mean, for a lot of people, they're sympathetic to the George Floyd situation, but that situation literally nailed me to my chair. It was like flashbacks, and I feel very humbled and grateful to still be here. And if we let these things die out, it will go back to a lot more of that. And hopefully we can make an environment where that can't happen.
Yeah, I feel you. I agree with you on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to be doing, being part of the event on Monday and everything. But yeah, we should definitely continue the conversation and into the year and throughout the year. So let's figure out some plan to make some differences in our community. Yeah, with such a rich history that like a lot of people are probably new to hearing with some of the stories and everything. But yeah, I mean, I just learning learning about you as we're talking and stuff. So it's like pretty shocking and like not shocking, but like it's like a little. I'm trying to absorb it all and trying to figure out what to ask next. But so you met Waterbuck here in the valley.
Waterbuck's wife is a woman called Kao Ogawa. She's Irish Japanese, and she's the one who started the djembe playing here in the valley. She started, and then she went to Guinea, and she brought Waterbuck with her.
Nice.
I don't want to go take. So there's a long kind of underground culture of djembe players in the valley. The Three Rivers Drum Circle is probably one of the oldest drum circles in California.
Wow. So, any plans to do any kind of online sort of drum classes? I know it's kind of hard to do like drum circles, but like, have you heard anything about like for people that are interested in taking drum classes on Zoom or anything?
What we have to get into is to there should be drum classes, and how can I say this? I said a few minutes ago that nobody knows about civil rights movement in Visalia. Happened before the civil rights movement itself. And if I had a long-term goal, I would like to see a djembe tribe here in the valley. I have a, wait a minute, let me see if this will work. Let me try it.
Yeah, do you want to do a little quick sound check right now? Because that would be, so we don't have to wait all the way till tomorrow.
Okay. Give me 1 minute. I'll go get the drum.
All right, and then Jeff will do some while you're.
How's that sound?
I can hear it.
You can hear it? Does it sound like it's coming through clean?
It's all right. You have the you've enabled original sound and everything.
Yeah, I've enabled the original sound. Yeah. Let me double check.
Yeah. Keep going, like, because do like 30 seconds so we can hear like if it cuts out.
I haven't played the drum so long. This is good for your core. All right.
All right, buddy, you gotta unmute because you're on mute right now, buddy.
All right.
All right, there you go. All right, it's cutting out, buddy. We're gonna have to walk you through how to fix that. Are you on your phone or computer?
On the computer.
Okay, that's easy. So because play like 10 seconds because it was cutting out. Like I think it's not gonna work unless we can't hear it. Like for drums, because Zoom is made for speaking, you're gonna have to Jeff, does he hit the more? No.
I'll walk you. Okay.
You
Not in Steam, but on your Zoom app.
he's on
or
no
the Zoom.
he's on his laptop. So you
I know. There's a different Zoom pop-up. The one that shows like meeting in the 4 squares, right?
Okay, I'll tell you what I see. Okay.
I think you hit the mute where you see where the mute button is. There's going to be a tiny arrow to the right of the mute button that it's pointing up. And you click that.
I see mute next to it.
Okay, so you see mute and then you see an arrow that goes up. You click that tiny arrow. It's a very, very tiny arrow.
There's a little tiny arrow, but it doesn't have, a little tiny blue spot. Wait a minute. It says mute my audio, stop video, rename, pin, hide self.
No, it's next to where it says, like, you know how you mute and unmute yourself? There's a little button right next to it. It should be.
Yeah, it is. There is one. It has 3 buttons on it.
No, it's just like an arrow. Like there's a mute button, and then right next to the right of it, there's a tiny arrow that goes up, and then it should say audio settings.
Well, this must be a dinosaur machine because
It's a little different.
Yeah. Let me try this. Not within the video of us, right?
right.
There should be another icon that launched before.
Oh yeah.
In your browser called Zoom.
No. I think what he was clicking on the video where it says mute and the 3 dots. No, I'm talking about at the very bottom of your.
I know, but he has to go. Sorry, I was saying if he goes, he's got to go to settings first.
I know,
regular Zoom.
I know. You can go to settings at the very bottom. Instead of where on the picture where it says mute, you go to the very bottom left of the computer screen, and it should say mute and stop video. Is there another way, Jeff?
Well, that's the way I do it on my laptop. I don't do it within the meeting.
Can you
outside
show,
the meeting?
Do you have another device, Jeff, that you could show, like with your iPad, just to kind of show how we do this?
I don't have that laptop on me. Let me see here.
Buddy, you muted yourself. So you clicked mute, but you're not supposed to click mute. You're supposed to click the arrow next to the mute. So you're still muted right now, buddy. Okay, now you're not.
I'll tell you what's on my entire screen, okay?
Okay.
It says mute, stop video.
Okay. Well, right in between mute and stop video, there's an arrow that goes up.
Yes.
You click that. Like you don't click mute, but like there.
Now a thing said select mic.
Yes. Now go down to the very bottom thing. It says audio settings.
Audio settings on.
Okay, so you click that, and then it brings up this page. You're gonna scroll down.
Okay.
And like there's some bold words. It says suppress. Don't click anything there. Then it'll say music and professional audio. And right under music and professional audio, it's about halfway down the page. It'll say in bold music and professional audio, but you'll need to click.
But it says general. It says video, audio.
Oh yeah, click audio. Click audio right now. Under general video, and it'll say audio. You click that,
when I click that audio input level.
Then go down to advanced.
Yeah.
Then,
So now that you click
and
that,
then
you're in audio. You scroll down halfway. It should say music and professional audio.
It doesn't say that.
Okay.
is there an
Recording, statistics, static feedback, keyboard shortcut, accessibility?
Oh no. So you click audio again. And go back up to under. It says general video and audio. You click
When
on
I click audio, nothing happens.
It should have when you click that, it should have like the microphone input level and output level.
Well, what's happening is to the right of audio now it says speaker, test speaker.
Yes. Okay. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna have to, so yeah, if you keep reading, go down. You stay right where you are, but you keep under where it says speaker and all that. Keep going down. It'll say microphone. You go below.
Phone test.
Yeah, you don't touch anything there. You go down a little bit more, and you see suppress background noise. Just keep going. You keep going down.
Background noise.
And then yeah, music and professional audio is where you're looking. You're trying to get to, and then it right under that there's a box that says show in meeting option to enable original sound.
It doesn't have it. It says right under, like it says, select default noise suppression.
No,
Optimize for music.
so
hold on, Justin. Is there a button that says advanced?
No.
Like down at the bottom right?
Yes.
Click on that first.
Clicked on.
Okay, then look at the top and it should say show in meeting original sound.
Yes.
Click that button. Click that box.
Then it says this will turn off audio enhancement, disabled echo cancellation, high fidelity music mode.
okay, yeah. So you just click the box that says show in meeting option to enable original sound, and you should be good. And then you just exit out of that. Once that's checked, you're good. And then so you come back to where you hit the in the top left. You exit out of it, and then does he need to turn on original sound up in the top left now of above?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So how do you explain
Let's
that?
go through this again then, because I was on. It said show and meeting option to enable original sound from microphone.
Yeah, you make sure that's clicked with the X check. You have
It has
a blue
a check in it. Then just below that, when original sound is enabled, disabled echo cancellation, high fidelity.
You don't need to hit anything else. I think just leave everything else as is.
Yeah.
And then just come back to the meeting without that. So you go to the top left of the settings and click that red button, the red circle, the X. So you just click out of settings because that's exactly what you needed to do. And then the last thing is the top left of your screen. It should say turn on original sound just above.
It says it right there.
Okay, yeah. So Jeff is showing it. You click that.
It says turn off original sound. It's there.
Okay, now then just leave it like that, and now play the drums, and we'll tell you if it worked.
Are you doing anything wrong?
So that
So yeah, I muted you. Sorry. We heard it. I heard it.
So it
Sounded really good.
We got the formula.
yeah,
That's perfect.
perfect.
So the good thing we sound checked that because
Here's your sound check. Okay. Here's your
Yeah.
sound check. Let's this bass. Okay? This tone. Slap. Got it?
I like it.
Now let's put those combinations together. Here's the lesson. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take the other djembe. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 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 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep going.
Take it away, Jeff.
My wife says she can't take it anymore. She's going to divorce me.
Oh, you got to jump off here?
She divorces me every other day.
That's why
Nope.
I'm out in the shed. That's why I'm out in the shed, you know.
Yeah. So, buddy, do you think you'd be able to walk Wadaba through that sound check? He can join us whenever he can to do a sound check. But
Let's see here. He's going to call me tomorrow
all right.
because he said his wife has to set him up.
Okay.
So
He probably has to do the same thing that we told you how to do. And if you need help,
sure that his wife is going to be there.
okay.
If she's not and we can't do it, now does it make a difference? Is the fact that it's just one drum?
No. What's going on is Zoom by default compresses the sound to use up less bandwidth. And so if you want it to sound good, like it does, like on a Facebook Live video or normal, you gotta turn on your original sound. That means that you don't care how much it's using. You want it to sound good, you know, kind of.
Okay.
Because before,
if you don't have that on, it'll start going, and then all of a sudden it just goes very quiet or cancels you out.
yeah, we
It's like
couldn't
this
even hear
noise.
it. I couldn't hear you before you did that. Like you were playing, but I couldn't hear a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we would hear like 2 beats, and then that was it. You know.
Okay. Well, then why don't we do this? I will set up with Wadaba to be available by 12:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, that works.
How's that sound?
Yeah, just let me know. Give me a call. And you know, should we? So you want me to? Should I make a Zoom thing and send you the link, and then he can join that? You'll send it to him. Or
What we can do is, you need Wadaba's phone number or his email.
either or, but I mean, like I could send you the link, like I sent you I sent you the link today to get in, and then you could either send it to him.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Just to keep it simple, and then we'll walk them through it. You know, I'm glad that we got you already squared away, and I think you won't have to mess with anything anymore. Like Jeff, does it save the settings?
it just once you start the meeting, you have to turn that on up in the left hand corner. But
Okay.
we had to get you into the settings to
It says turn off original sound.
Yeah, you wanted to say
because it's
that. You don't want to click that because when you click it, that's when it goes back to the old way.
Oh, so we just
right.
want to leave it
What
there.
I'm saying is we only have to go through the settings once to click that button that we had to go find.
Which we already
But
done.
then once checked, every time you start the meeting, all you'll have to do is turn on the thing in the left hand corner each time you start a meeting.
Oh, okay.
Mine saves it like it always like once I changed it like he just did right now. Now it always says turn off original sound. I never have to click it, but it depends. We just have to make sure we'll do sound checks and stuff.
See what
But
this sounds like.
all right. Sounds really good actually.
Okay. You can hear me, so just go like this first. In African drumming, if you say it, you can play it.
All right.
Taka tu taka tu taka tu taka tu.
Taka tu taka tu.
Taka tu taka tu taka tu taka tu. Now, the thing with Wadaba is his tone is so piercing, it'll be 4 or 5 decibels better than that. That's a little one. That's a little one.
Yeah, the baby Jimmy.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else do we have to do?
What did you mean? His tone is piercing, or what did you mean by that?
Um, there are 3 tones, as I said, right? And
Yeah.
the important part in African drumming is that you master those 3 tones. If you hit the drum, you're going to make some noise. No matter what you're doing, you're going to make some noise. But you want to intentionally make that noise, so that if you want to make a bass, it's a clear bass. You want to make a tone, it's a clear tone. So that Wadaba has mastered. We have in our culture, if a little salt is good, a lot of salt might be better, right? Well, that's not true. And so we say if you hit something and it sounds good, if you hit it harder, it might sound better. Well, Waterbaug's proven that's not true, because he has little hands and he has tones because he knows exactly how to get the tone that he wants consciously. So he doesn't play and hope the right tone will come out. When that tone comes out, that's a conscious tone.
Nice. Crazy. Do you have any questions?
No, just if we continue this down the line, I think the thing we have the potential of doing, because wouldn't it be wonderful if in the Central Valley we had this zooming drum group that could zoom their asses off and we invite people from Texas, from Arkansas, from Venezuela, from all over the country to join us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Coming out of the Central Valley. Can you believe that?
Well, we have an open mic tomorrow. That's pretty. We open it up to everyone, globally. And so I didn't really mention that to you, but so it's open mic tomorrow at 1 p.m. same time as today. If you want to come, I'll shoot you the link. And I forgot to promote that, but yeah, today we had the podcast, but tomorrow is more of an open mic where you hear people from all over the place.
Now we're gonna cross wires here, are we? Because we're gonna get together at 1:30 with Wadaba. I mean, that's 12:30.
Yeah, let's try to keep it,
Monday though.
Aren't
you doing that on Monday or Sunday?
But he wanted to do a test with Wadaba.
Tomorrow, yeah. If we can do it, as quick, at noon or 12:30 as quickly as possible, and then we can start the open mic at 1.
And the other option we have too is it's not till Monday at 6 p.m.
That's true. Yeah. No, we should be able to get it squared away tomorrow, and it'll probably lead into open mic. So, we could perform at open mic, in a sense, and at the beginning, and then you can take off whenever you have to. But yeah, I mean, we do have some time until the actual event on Monday. But yeah, let's. So did he say noon or 12:30 tomorrow?
It'd be 12:30.
That's fine. Yeah, 30 minutes to get it squared away should be good.
Well, what I could do, I could make it at 12:15 if that works better.
It doesn't matter. I'm gonna try to come to the UU meeting, and see what it's all about, and then so we'll see. Maybe you might need to get a bite to eat or something, and then no rush. And so 12:30 is fine. But let's.
Do it look like I missed meals?
I can't tell. I don't know. Looks like you have a bunch of.
What Buddy said about doing a drum circle, I mean, if Justin's down for it, maybe it could be, you could pick another night, like a Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that.
It seems we can have the big thing on the Zoom is how you coordinate that.
It won't line up. I mean, we could test it right now, and so we can listen back to it and see what if it's how it sounds. Like if we all three play, follow along to you, and we listen back to the recording.
Why don't we do this? I'm going to hit a tune, and you guys it's a call and respond.
Yeah. What if we did a rotation? It'll be Buddy, okay. Jeff, and me. You do something, and then we'll kind of just pass it. We'll copy you.
I'll copy you. Go ahead.
Well, how many bars do we play?
As much as you want.
I know. Okay, so we're gonna try to play over on top of each other.
Yes.
We'll test it.
How about that? No.
Hey, fellas.
Yes.
I have to go. My wife's not feeling very well, and I got to go get her.
All right.
It's understandable. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, buddy. You take care. Have a good evening.
Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, Justin. Let's jump off here.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching the Gusalicious so-called podcast. You're amazing for watching and commenting and sharing. Number 5.
6.
I don't know what number this is. Oh, shoot. All right. Jeff, did you... All right, he's out. All right, peace, everybody. Talk to you soon.